Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the Hunter the Reckoning system by White Wolf Publishing. This actual play is performed by adults and contains adult themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., which may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. And now, on with the show. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways Podcast. I am not your keeper, handler, or storyteller this evening because we are here to play Hunter the Reckoning. And we have an amazing friend of the show and a super awesome backer of the show that's going to help us do this, and that is Skip. So I will hand the show over to Skip. Skip, take it away.
Thank you, Mike. Hi. Again, my name is Skip. We are going to be joining our hunters today in Hunter the Reckoning. This system was created by White Wolf. The system that we're going to be using, or the edition we're going to be using, is what came out in 1999. So this is pre-Y2K. Everybody's been walking around with their Nokia cell phones and everything. So we're looking forward to kind of exploring the pre-2000s when it comes to White Wolf. The city that we're going to be focusing on is Roanoke, Virginia. It is in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains, also known as the Star City. And I'll go more into that as we get into the game. But with the game comes players, and I am honored to be sitting at the table with all these players, but we will begin to my right.
Hi, this is Morgan, and I play Fiona Hensley. Our pronouns are she, her, and Fiona's creed is visionary. And the messengers first spoke to me through my sleep when I would awaken in the morning and find my work notebooks scrawled in blood. And when I realized what was happening, that I was getting talked to by these beings, I had to find out more.
So you were asleep when the first message came to you?
Yes. They used my body to write the message. Well, they used my blood to write the message in a notebook for work, which, if you don't know how much those 5-star notebooks cost, in 1999, okay, probably like 20 cents. But, you know, I don't make much at my job, so. But anyways, yes, they spoke, and it, told me I was called to look into these monsters, and it's a little scary.
And you said you took, your creed is visionary, so to kind of go over what that is when it comes to game-related. Visionaries are introspective, questioning, and doubtful. Visionaries seek the ultimate goals of the war against the unknown, and they seek purpose for hunters as a whole. Since your message arrived, what have you thought about maybe what your purpose is with this, or are you still just kind of working it out in your head?
Well, my purpose is to find everything I can out about this and disperse that information freely to my fellow hunters, to the world. The internet is a thing. Under the AOL chat message board. And and just make sure they get all that information. That's my purpose. Became so clear. The path I went down for my profession, which reporter, duh, obviously, it all makes sense now. The whispers I heard in these old houses my friends and I would go explore when we really shouldn't have been doing that. It all makes sense. And sure, I might be a little crazy if I'm having these like dreams and writing things in blood and stuff, but really, I come from a long line of strong women.
When Fiona was growing up, did Fiona see anything maybe out of the ordinary? Maybe, they were playing pranks in a in a graveyard, or walked past an old church at night and saw something. Do you anything like that you had seen in Fiona's background that may, when the messenger spoke to you, may have come a little bit clearer?
So my friends and I like to play a lot in the woods. When we were growing up, I grew up just in a little town outside of Roanoke. We would go walk in the woods at night, because as you do, usually during hunting season, I'm sure. And there was this one night, I swear we had something following us. And it wasn't your typical like coyote or wolf or bobcat. It was something different. It was on all fours at first, and then it was on its hind legs, but it wasn't a bear.
Did it give you that kind of hair on the back of your neck feeling while you were walking through? And did you see it again, or is it just one of those things that just happened to happen that one time?
I went camping with my boyfriend when I was 18, 19. Told my parents I was staying over at a girlfriend's house for the weekend. Okay, you know how it is. And I could have sworn when we were camping that there was a shadow from outside the tent that really resembled what I had seen when I was several years younger. But by the time I looked outside the tent, I didn't see anything anymore.
So you've chosen the occupation of journalist. Do you see yourself working for a paper, or do you just kind of post things on the Hunter net? Or maybe a combination of both?
Oh, I am a fine journalist for the Roanoke Tribune. I'll have you know. Started by Fleming Alexander back in 1939. Yeah, so I work there, and really that's the only place I get decent internet out. So, which is probably, it's 1999, you could get DSL, which is much better than the dial-up I have at my condo. So I post on the HunterNet there. I've kind of connected with some other hunters out in California and out in Montana, who may have seen similar things I did when I was growing up.
What would your hunter alias be on the HunterNet? What would you see your character going by?
It would probably be XX Cub Reporter XX.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what Fiona leads can be dug up here and what has been happening in the Roanoke Valley over the past several weeks. So thank you, Fiona. And we will move on to Fiona's right.
Yeah, hi, this is Mike, and my pronouns are he, him, as are my characters. James Duncan Buchanan, formerly United States Marine, and his creed is Avenger. So James probably had his message at likely the worst time. He was at a local to him at the time, oil change place. He's a older car that he'd been driving around after the GI Bill dried up for him, and he was getting an oil change. And while he was sitting in the waiting area of that oil change location, drinking the really desperate cup of coffee that they offer you, he noticed that the couple of the workers there just didn't look right. And when he went out to confront them, they made a scene. And when they made a scene, James beat their head in with a tire iron. And he's basically been on the run ever since. That was probably 96, maybe 97. It's been a little while, maybe. He did time in the Gulf during Gulf War I, as Gulf War II hasn't happened yet. And came home basically to a series of broken promises and shattered dreams, and self-medicated between painkillers and alcohol, and weekends at the gun range. He has no job. He is a full-time drifter and drives from city to city, state to state at this point in hopes of quelling the volcano of anger inside himself.
Interesting. So, about how many instances would you think that James has been involved in that may have been outside the norm, let's put it that way, when it comes to maybe an aggressor or something like that? Anything that James would see as a pattern? Or is it just been kind of, I just run into these things?
I think he probably feels like, he probably felt like at first that he just ran into them. He's probably been 2 or 3 at this point, as to not seed too many potential scenarios he's been a part of. But I think there's this common refrain for him where sort of like when bad things continue to happen to someone, they sort of feel like they only get bad things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they get that sort of self-fulfilling cycle where, yes, of course, the next bad thing is happening. And so that's likely where his groove is now. If he's not having something bad happen to him by these monsters that run around, he is going to the next bad thing where it will invariably happen to him.
Now, with James, one of the things that has been going on with him is, and for those of you who are not familiar with Hunter, I'll just kind of interject here, that most hunters, when they first are awakened, like it would be a mage, they call that they hear the message. Now, James has heard the message more than once. Is that correct?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. How has James reacted each time that he's heard the message? Has it been a positive experience, or would it be one that he has kind of found his way to the bottom of either a coffee cup or another bottle?
Yeah, I think the first time it's probably a lot of self-medication afterward. Like the incident at the oil change place is not good memories.
Mm-hmm.
But it's possible that he had an instance at maybe a coffee shop or a bookstore, because of course he doesn't have a computer. So getting onto the internet, he'd have to do it like a library or a Barnes and Nobles, depending upon what was available. And it's possible he had a positive experience by learning from other hunters or using other tips that he found online to track them and sort of better understand what's going on. I think he's probably, as a Marine too, he's probably one of those folks that figures, okay, if I'm already wading hip deep in this stuff, I better learn how to cope. And coping mechanisms come in a ton of different ways.
Now, as James has gone on in his quest here, has he established like little hideaways to store things that he may need, or has he just been kind of picking up as he goes?
Yeah, I would say he likely has somewhat of a storage in his vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
He probably had to, because he believes he's probably wanted by the police in, we'll say Indiana, wherever he's from. Mm-hmm. And he's probably packed most of it up. And with the resources that he has together at this point, he's probably renting like cheap motels or apartments that he can pay cash for temporarily, or maybe even going into areas of cities or states where there are, clusters of ethnic populations that are willing to rent like a bedroom or a garage at no questions asked, that sort of thing.
Okay. What do you think would have brought him to Roanoke in this case? Is it just he just came up I-81, or was there something or a message that may have sent him there?
I think he probably got a message that said, you need to go to Roanoke, that there's a hunt that's happening there. That could be from someone on hunter.net that said, hey, we got a problem here. Or it could just be the messengers are guiding his, right foot as he drives to Roanoke.
And what would you think that James's handle would be on Hunter.net?
I think his handle on Hunter.net is something probably like Gunny66.
Gunny66. Okay, love it. Now we'll see what the messengers have in store for James here in a little bit. Moving on down the table.
Hi, this is Heather Ashcraft, and I am playing Joe McKay. Joe is a judge by creed, and Joe experienced the other side, as she likes to think of it, just in purely in chance. As she had been brought up, kind of the school of hard knocks, she had a rough time. Kind of bounced around from foster home to foster home, never really had a landing place, and finally took off at 16 and kind of has found her way through the world on her own, her own merits, her own cunning, her ability to be able to talk her way either into or out of various situations as the case may be. Jo eventually found herself kind of going from city to city and discovered that she had a little bit of a talent for kind of playing the cards. Generally, she was very good with cards. So she started taking what she could find and parlaying that into larger amounts. Through her, her street smarts and whatnot, when you kind of go through some of the encampments, the tent cities, so to speak, she would notice things not being quite right. She would faces that didn't look quite like faces. She would overhear strange speech. And what finally came to be is there was a robbery late one night, corner bodega in some city, probably out near Las Vegas, but not like not like down on the glamour, the strip or anything, but kind of off of it. A bodega on the corner gets robbed, and she notices from across the street this happen and sees the would-be hoodlums take off with the money and whatever else they had in their hands from this bodega. But what she wasn't expecting was the owner of the bodega to come out and follow those around the corner, down the alley. And what that owner became was not human. And feeling a combination of probably scared and intrigued. One of the robbers had dropped their pistol. And Jo found herself saying, when she saw that the creature had finished with the first robber and was turning to the second, decided that was not going to happen. They did not deserve having their body parts ripped to pieces and innards splayed on the wall, and found herself picking up the gun and confronting this creature and taking it head on. She felt a purpose for the first time. She wasn't just wandering in survival mode. She had a purpose. And while she doesn't go immediately after, like she's not seeking to go save people, if having that knowledge and developing that confidence on taking these things, these monsters, these things on. So occasionally she'll help out people and hunt these things down for a good cause or a decent payday. Other times she'll do it just purely out of spite. This thing it wronged her in some way, or she just doesn't like it, or she's having a bad day. And she has an area to vent that kind of rage or annoyance, more annoyance than rage, really. So the hunt for her, each hunt is different, and it really is a kind of an opportunity to either gain some advantage. Either she wants to feel good, she wants to help out, or she wants to get something.
That's very interesting. I want to take you back to that moment that when Joe grabbed that gun and began to pull the trigger. Did Joe think anything of, well, this creature was just doing his job in the bodega and was accosted by these two? Was there any feeling of, that, or did she make the call right then, right there, didn't care, anything like that?
It was less kind of right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was more, I think in some ways, it was more her survival instincts kind of kicked in. And more of things like this shouldn't exist. Joe's done this for more than half her life. And she's, from all of her life, has been fiercely independent, and mainly because she has to be. Joe knows she's sick. She has been to some of the free clinics, and she knows she is sick. She knows her time on this earth is limited. So for her, there is as much pleasure in going about and doing these hunts. It's really about feeling alive while she still can, as much of that as it is purpose to help others or gain something or both.
So with Roanoke and Virginia not being in the casino area, but all cities have their underground and they have their underground games and everything. What do you think would have brought you to Roanoke? Was there a specific thing you may have saw on HunterNet, or just a gut feeling, or why do you see that Joe is there?
For Joe, it's not that far. I mean, Virginia is not incredibly far from Jersey. Mm-hmm. So she would have been around Atlantic City. And I think it was something went down that went sideways. That she's probably in Roanoke specifically more for her own self-interest while she's on the run. And she's just kind of figures she's passing through.
How active has Joe been on Hunter.net?
She jumps on when and where she can.
What would you say Joe's handle is on Hunter.net?
99 Holiday.
99 Holiday, okay. Well, let's see if Joe's gamble pays off by coming to Roanoke. We'll find out here in a little bit. And last but definitely not least.
Hi, I'm Allie, and I am playing Riley Mendez, and I am a traveling nurse primarily for ER, more or less just kind of wherever I'm needed. I'm in network at a few different hospitals, and I basically just take shifts when I have time or if there's like a lot going on. I'm not usually like called in to help for the most part, but I have come in at the request of like other nurses if they've called me in a pinch. My creed is innocent. I came by the hunting via a book. Literally, there was a guy on a street that I was trying to help because I saw him collapse, and when I was waiting for the ambulance to arrive, he did not make it, unfortunately, but he had a book on him that I felt that I needed to have or take, and I took it with me. And when I got home and opened it up, there was a list of names, and there were some like general notes next to the name. And when I did a little bit of like follow-up work, because all of the names that were noted had what should have been traumatic neck injuries, but they had all safely recovered, except that they also all seemed to become recluses. They didn't really come out during the day anymore.
Interesting.
So I took it upon myself to take a few days off from working at all, and I visited a few of the names in the book, and the fourth one down the list, a Timothy Dean, answered the door, and it was nighttime outside, and while he was not normal, he attacked me and tried to bite my neck, and I barely got away.
Was that the first time that Riley maybe have felt that there was something out of the ordinary? Any other prior experiences before finding that book? Anything that you would think that Riley may have saw as a youth or anything like that that may have become more clear once the message was received?
Well, when she was younger, especially when she was like in kindergarten, first grade, like 5, 6 years old, she would very regularly be able to see and talk to people who, under normal circumstances, weren't there. And everyone referred to, them as imaginary friends. But, when she got older and was more curious about it, she came to find out that some of these people were people who lived in like the house that she had grown up in. These were people who had been there before, and there's no way that a 5 or 6 year old would have known that before. So she knew before that for sure, but this was something more visceral that was not something she ever would have expected.
So after the message was received for Riley, did Riley notice any changes in how things happened around her? Was there like maybe a feeling of deja vu or things that you may have seen before they actually happened?
Yes and no, but the deja vu happened. It would be within a few minutes. It would be she's thinking about something that would seem to make sense, and then that exact thing that she was just thinking about would happen a few minutes later.
When she travels around to these different hospitals, has she noticed anything more, I don't want to say the word spooky, but while she's in these hospitals, now that her eyes have been opened, has she seen more of one thing than another? Or has it just been, oh, that's weird, but now that makes sense?
It's been a lot more of that's weird, but it makes sense. There's been just a larger number of incidents that she's been able to pinpoint as something that's not normal causes. Like that one woman who, lives, on the street that, everyone thinks is just a little bit crazy. Well, she's a little bit crazy, but she also has something else going on behind those eyes. She's looking at something that others aren't looking at. And it's not the drugs.
Now, with the creed being innocence, I'll just kind of mention how it is mechanical. Well, as it mentioned in the book, it's the curious, unabashed, and wide-eyed. The innocent attempts to accept monsters on their own terms and seeks resolution between creatures and humanity. Do you think that some of these creatures that you have come across, maybe not the non-aggressive ones, but some of the other maybe more passive, does she feel like they could be saved? Or is this something that she will have to deal with in the future? How is her outlook on that?
So a lot of it isn't a matter of being able to be saved, quote unquote, because for her, being saved is something more akin to like religion, not necessarily just Christianity, but something that is connected to some kind of like higher power, whatever that might be, right? But for her acceptance of the creatures at face value is accepting that something may look dangerous but isn't actually dangerous. She prefers to give the benefit of the doubt first and foremost, even for people, monsters, creatures, beings, whatever, that might be normally more inherently dangerous. There are some of them that are conscious enough to just need to be minding their own business, and as long as you maintain that respect of minding your business, they mind yours, and you don't have to worry about it. The conflict isn't always the most necessary thing.
Has she at any point wanted to use her medical knowledge to, you mentioned like you were attacked once by a creature of the night, using her medical knowledge to try to bring them back to the fold, so to speak, or has that thought ever entered her mind?
It hasn't entered her mind, primarily because the type of medicine that she practices is for, that she specializes in, is mostly to save people who are already dying. So really, as long as they're already like cared for and healthy, she doesn't really have that much more work that she absolutely needs to do.
So as a traveling nurse, what would have brought her to Roanoke now in this particular time frame?
Oh, she lives here.
So she's been going around to several hospitals in the local area whenever she's needed, not just one specifically, but on the outskirts or maybe down the road or anything like that.
Yeah, probably within an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of driving distance from her house, which is, like in the northern part of Roanoke.
Okay. And does she spend a lot of time on Hunter.net?
Yes.
Is there anything particular that she researches, or is it kind of generalist?
It's kind of a generalist, almost like doom scroll kind of thing. Because for her, since she sees, monsters and other beings as essentially what they are, rather than their more public perceptions, it's her, wanting to, essentially help verify for herself or for others if she has more active knowledge to be able to say like, well, they're not actually a monster, they're just kind of weird, sort of thing. And she wants to make sure that everyone can see things as clearly as she does, which is why the handle she goes by is clear_as_day.
Clear_as_day. Excellent. Thank you, Riley. We look forward to seeing how things work out for you as well. So that is our list of characters. We've kind of gone over the creeds, what has brought them to Roanoke, and just in general, what their attitude is about the world that has been recently opened to them. That being said, it is now November 1st, 1999. It is a cold evening, the day after Halloween in Roanoke, Virginia. It is a clear night. The star on Mill Mountain is shining like a beacon. A lot of people use that to know, hey, I live there. If I'm drunk, I'm going to be walking home that way. But a lot of people use it as inspiration, like life is good. The star is shining. Thanksgiving and Christmas are on its way. The spooky Halloween season is now beginning to wind down. And things are, after the big Halloween celebration downtown and the big parade, things have kind of began to get back to normal, as normal would be in this time of the year. The scene will open as we look out at one of our hunters. We'll begin with Fiona. Fiona, you have spent the day just reporting up in the Mill Mountain Zoo. You had one of those little fluff pieces assigned to you about how the lionesses have adapted to the cold and everything like that. Just a little fluff piece that, It's paying the bills. It's nothing spectacular, but it was something to do. When you get a text as you're sitting at home finishing typing this wonderful news story that's going to get you a Pulitzer Prize. It's actually one of your informants that you've kind of established in the downtown area that has notified you a couple of times when things just aren't what they seem to be. And the text just quickly says, Fiona, we need meet at the Fusion, 10 p.m., please. And it's signed David. The Fusion that you automatically know is one of those dance clubs that is downtown Roanoke. It's all ages, so there are people, teenagers there, all the way up until the 50s and 60s. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of people, but it's a popular club. And you have been there several times before, maybe for pleasure, maybe, following up on a lead, whatever. But the last thing that David had sent you on was something about 20 miles to the east of Roanoke, Smith Mountain Lake. There was some strange thing that he saw while he was fishing there that he pointed you to. It turned out to be really nothing, but you kind of took pity on him because he was having certain situations in his life that was enhanced by the bottom of the bottle. What would you care to do at this point?
What time is it now?
Right now, it's about 7 p.m.
All right. And zoo, I'm assuming, is closed, or they're about to be closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally missed seeing the penguins.
You did.
It's fine. Next time.
Yeah, they were cleaning. Just couldn't get in there. It was a very sad moment.
It was. So I think there's a restaurant near there called Fiji Island.
Yes.
So I will head there for a couple of drinks because I think the Fusion is alcohol-free and drug-free.
It's supposed to be, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'll go over to the Fiji Island and have a couple of, I'm assuming they make martinis or something. Something fruity so I can drink it quickly. And yeah, I'll do that. I might eat an appetizer. So if they have I don't know, mozzarella sticks or something, chips and guac. I'm not sure what they serve at this restaurant, I'll be honest, because I don't think it's open anymore in Roanoke. So
it's not, but I remember it. So
I'll go there and eat something, and then I'll go meet David at 10 o'clock, I guess.
It's typical bar food. You can get your mozzarella sticks, you can get your, potato stuffers and stuff like that. So you'll have no problem in getting that. When you arrive around 10 o'clock at the Fusion, it's just getting started. There is a DJ playing tonight. There is no live band. So the crowd is a little bit off. They tend to come more when the live bands are there playing. But as you walk in, it's a typical 90s kind of vibe to it. You've got tables spread out everywhere in like a circle. In the middle, there's this huge dance floor. On the very far end, you see the stage. Right now, there's the DJ who's set up there. Normally, that's where the band would be. But as you walk in, you can immediately tell where David is. Every time you have seen him here, he sits in the far left-hand side by himself. He has one orange juice in front of him, and he places the fedora hat that he constantly wears, even when it's raining, when it's snowing, when it's sunshine. He always seems to have this on every time that you see the media. It is hanging on the left-hand chair of the table that he's sitting at, and that's kind of his signature to know that's where he is. David is about 5'3", with black hair, blue eyes, and the beginnings of a goatee that looks like he's been trying to grow for 3 years, but has never come fully out. But he kind of recognizes you as you walk in, and he'll just kind of wave his little finger at you as you make your approach to him. He'll just kind of look up at you, smile, and says, Thank you, Fiona. I'm sorry to just text you out of the blue, but you're not going to believe this. Sit down. Sit down.
All right. What is it this time, David?
Now, I'm so sorry about the lake incident. I know that you're really upset with me, but and he'll just kind of look around, almost knock his orange juice over as he reaches over into his old book bag and pull out this file. And he says, "The girl I'm seeing, she's an intern at Roanoke Memorial. She was at home working on brought some cases home to kind of fill out. She's going through school and everything like that. And she had to go to the bathroom. And I'm curious. I need to look. I want to see what she's doing and everything because I'm worried she's going to fall in love with the doctor and leave me. But that's beside the point. And he'll like open the file, and there's a picture of a person there. You being a journalist, you automatically, you know that there's been a recent murder of a pianist in the area. One of your other coworkers had written that piece and everything, and it hit the papers today. It was David Hutchinson's, was the pianist's name. But he just kind of points out, he said, I'm sorry, this is kind of gross, and I shouldn't be showing it to you here, but it just look. And he'll kind of pull one of the pictures back. It's a normal crime scene photos, the body's laying there face down. Things you've seen before in journalism. You're just kind of getting accustomed to these things. But the way where he is pointing, you look and you see that both of his hands have been severed off. And he said, I've never seen it. But everything else was intact. And he'll just like hand you the picture.
You brought this to a club where there could be kids that see this, David?
I didn't know what else to do. And this is where we usually meet. And the girl came over and asked me I told him to go away.
Okay. All right. So, pianist with no hands.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe it was a mob hit. I don't know. It's Virginia. There's mob all over the place.
But, I mean, have you heard him play?
Listen, I prefer that Britney Spears and, 98 Degrees.
It's about 47 outside, so I don't know why you're saying it's 98 degrees. It is kind of warm in here. But he was good. I went to see him a couple of times over at the piano bar. I mean, he had like scouts looking for him. And they were going to try to make him the next Billy Joel. But don't you think it's weird they cut his hands on both of them?
Well, maybe he owed him a piece and like a piece of music, and he didn't deliver, and I don't know.
Is this something that you may be interested in? It's weird.
Oh, absolutely. Anything to get me up the ladder at the Roanoke Tribune.
Oh, good. I just think you were going to go, never speak to me again. And I wanted to do something good this time. Look, I'm going to have to get this thing back to my girlfriend before she knows she's taking a nap right now. She's been studying really, really hard. But does your camera still take those pictures?
Sure. Yeah, I take a couple pictures of the hands and the patient information that's clearly spelled out right there on the report. And David, I swear in all of heaven and hell, I will come after you if this turns out to be nothing.
Oh, no. I totally understand. You'll never speak to me again. And if my girlfriend ever finds out I'm a dead man anyway, you won't have to speak to me anyway because I'll be dead. Well, maybe you will speak to me. I don't know. Thank you for meeting me. I'm going to get this back. You can have the rest of this orange juice.
I pushed the orange juice away. And I look at the file. I mean,
Mhm.
it says missing hands.
Just by a quick read of the file before he yanks it away, you do see that this was done post-mortem. But according to the medical examiner, it wasn't long after the death that this took place. And the note that he makes on there is it was done with the words he used were fine precision. It wasn't a hack job or anything like that. But you get all the other information, like the medical examiner's name and everything like that from the quick time you saw it in the picture that you took. So if you want to investigate this further, you'll be able to do so.
I do, in fact, want to investigate it further, but the medical examiner is probably closed at this time of night. Unless he's at the local Roanoke bar.
Not particularly this one. So.
Yeah, no. So I will make my way to the medical examiner tomorrow morning.
Excellent.
And at this time, I will go over to the office and doom scroll on HunterNet.
Okay. And that's where we'll leave you for the time being. We'll move on over now as the camera switches to our good friend James. Where would you see James at night here in Roanoke? What would you think James would be doing?
I think James is probably at a local watering hole. I've never been to Roanoke personally, but I'm just going to ask, say, someone who might have been. In the Midwest, there's a lot of like neighborhood and corner bars.
Mm-hmm.
It's very prevalent. So that's the sort of place that James would hang out in. It would be a place where you could get, a bottle of beer for, a couple bucks or whatever it is, and you can have a couple, and nobody is going to talk to you. Probably a place where any factory workers or places like that guys get off shift, and that's probably his jam.
Okay. You're sitting in one of these bars, just kicking back a few. When you see two people walk in, you've been here a time or two. You've never seen these two before. By the looks of them, they're wearing like overcoats. They have a hat, kind of the tie that you just kind of pull down when your shift is over, that kind of thing. And they'll walk in, remove their hats, and just kind of take a table near you. And they'll order, a standard bourbon shot. Mm-hmm. And just kind of start looking. They kind of glance around the place and everything, and then they'll just kind of begin to start talking amongst themselves. If you would like to listen to what they're saying,
I will
give you the opportunity.
Be very interested to know what these two fine, upstanding gentlemen are talking about.
Okay. If you could make the first roll of the game, actually, I'm going to give you the honor of that. If you could give me a perception and I'll say awareness on this one.
Okay, perception awareness. So in this version of the World of Darkness, standard difficulty is 6. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, are there any modifiers I need to be aware of before I roll?
No, it's still fairly quiet in here. So you don't have any thumping music or any other loud bar patrons to dissuade this roll. So I would say you're looking for 6s.
Okay, cool. So I have 2 successes.
2 successes. Immediately, you gather that these two gentlemen are police officers, or at least police detectives. Just not only by the way they're talking, but just kind of their mannerisms. As you begin to kind of zoom in and pay attention to what they are doing. You can hear the conversation perfectly, even though they're trying to button it down a little bit. It looks like they've had a hard day and they're having a kind of discussion about it. the first gentleman, he's about 6'4", very lanky, kind of with blondish hair, kind of catching the green eyes reflecting in some of the lights that are around here. But you gather by his name is Johnny, just as he's being addressed. Johnny mentions that he was over at the tracks today when he got the call. The gentleman who he's with is named Max. Will begin to, just kind of, it sounds like he's trying to pump Johnny for a little bit of information if you didn't know any better. But Max goes on to say, well, I heard the call come in and I didn't know who they had sent over there, but was it as bad as I thought? And he said, Johnny responds by saying, yeah, man, I've been on this force, 20 some years, and I never seen anything like that. The way he was left, it just never, and he just kind of shakes a little bit as he takes the second shot of bourbon. Max goes on to say, I heard the examiner said that they were both gone. Like, yeah. What? But the rest of the body was intact. Yeah. But I don't know why you would take somebody's legs, just the legs. I've seen missing legs here and there, but I've never seen anything like that. I just don't know. And Max just kind of say, well, let me go get you another drink. And he'll just kind of walk over to the bar and start talking with the bartender, and Johnny's just kind of sitting there shaking. Is there anything in particular you would like to do?
Yeah, I'm going to get probably a little too curious, just because I think James's weird shit-o-meter is going off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've heard guys tell stories, right? War stories, etc. The stuff that happened in the Gulf War some of it was pretty bad. So I know how that goes. I guess I'll stand up and I'll head over towards the bar, and then just take a couple of take a couple of stools down from this guy.
Okay. Within about a minute or two, Max will walk back over to Johnny, and they'll just kind of continue their conversation. And for the most part, you gather that the body was found early this morning over by the train depot, kind of off to the side. It was found by a janitor this morning doing some cleanup work. And that's about all you can gather at the moment, as they just kind of get to the point where they just get tired of talking about it, and they'll move on to, how's the wife and the kids and everything like that.
Yeah, once they move on to the, conversational stuff, I finish my beer and I head out because I have a ton of information to run on now. And then my next stop will be the train station, because the janitor at a train station found a dead body. And he's going to be way easier to get to. They'll be way easier to get to than trying to poke around in any sort of police file.
And that's where we'll leave James for the moment as we move over to Joe. What would Joe be doing tonight?
Probably looking for a game.
Okay.
Or maybe taking a little bit of the spoils and just kicking back. I know she usually finds in areas that don't necessarily have the casinos. I mean, outside of Las Vegas or Atlantic City or several pockets that she's aware of. She usually will hit up a club and try to find, the kind of work her way in and find the details of maybe where maybe there's an underground game going, or just see maybe if there's an easy mark.
All right. So we'll get you to one of the local quote unquote clubs, where there's like dancing and everything in the front. And in the back, there are other sundry things going on involving chips, cards, slots, things like that. You have made your way to one of these locations and have gotten into a decent game of poker. And you've been there for about maybe an hour and a half or something like that. One of the gentlemen who has joined you in this latest game, his name is Anthony. Of course, his friends call him Tony. That's what he's told you. And you've struck up a good conversation as both of you have been doing fairly well against each other. A hand here, a hand there. And have struck up a lively conversation. And after the latest game that you played, he kind of orders a couple of drinks for you both and begins to just kind of talk to you here and there and says, Joe, how long have you been in town?
Oh, not long. I'm just kind of making my way through. I figured it would be a hoot to come over and see the actual Roanoke. All the stories.
Oh, yeah. That's what...
I don't know. I'll hang here, see how it goes. Maybe a few days.
My wife's a history teacher. I get it. And she's always talking about some of the things that happened around here. It's really, really kind of boring, actually. But I'm glad you enjoy it. But do you read those like weird magazines? Like the National Lampoon or National Enquirer and things like that.
Sometimes they're fun to read. I mean, when you got nothing else to do and you're sitting at a bus station, you got 6 months old rags to, gotta do something.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
The last guy I played with got a little too drunk, I think. He was going off about, he reads a lot of that stuff. And he said that he saw that if you go over he was at the park about 5 minutes outside of downtown. He was walking through there. He saw somebody laying, in the park. He just figured it was a bum. He was going to go try to wake him up, maybe give him some money for some coffee or anything. But when he came over there, the guy was missing his arms, he said.
Oof.
Yeah. He said the hands were there. He said that's the first thing he saw. He saw that the hand, kind of reaching out of the bush. That's why he thought, oh, somebody's asleep over there. And he just walked over there and he said it was just the damnedest thing you've ever saw. And I don't know, man. I don't really read that stuff. I think he may have just had too much to drink, but have you ever heard anything like that?
Well, unless that Bat Boy took him, or so. Which park was it? How long ago?
Oh, it was a Riverside Park down by the Roanoke River. That's what he said. First of all, I don't go anywhere near there at night. Not only are all the bums are down there, but it just that fog comes on. It's like walking in like what is it, Transylvania or something? In the old scary movies, but. Yeah, it was down that way. He said he saw it like a couple of days ago. I'm like, a couple of days? And you're just telling us, you're just thinking about it now? He said, well, maybe it was last night. I don't know. I had a lot of drink. So I'm like, all right, man, you need to go home. I called him a cab and everything. It's just the weirdest thing. I thought you might get a kick out of it if you read that National Enquirer stuff.
Yeah, well, you never know some of the crazies out there, what you're going to find. So it's not entirely surprising. But, don't worry about the bums so much. I mean, really, it's just good people down on their luck. Oh, yeah, I know. My brother-in-law, but he kind of does that, and just wanders from town to town. So anyway, speaking of the wife, I better get back. If I'm
Oh, with less than $100 of what I left, I'm sleeping with the dog. So maybe I'll catch you around here again. We'll talk about some other than the National Enquirer crap. You all right?
Yeah, I'm down to take your money again.
Okay.
Whenever you decide.
We'll see about that. And he'll kind of collect his winnings. No problem. Watch out for that fog. And he'll just kind of exit on out. What would Joe like to do?
Let's go see what's going on. Let's go check this out. Why not? I mean, got nothing else to do. So Joe tosses back the rest of her drink, one shot, pops the glass down. Now, were they at the bar? Like at the bar? Or were they at a table in the back? Or
It's in the back. It's one of those, people know it goes on, but they don't really tell people it's going on type place.
So she, puts the glass down, kind of gets up from the table, heads out probably the back way.
Okay.
And as she gets outside and bums the smoke off of probably some club worker who's probably back there, and heads down into the night towards the park.
Okay.
When she looks, kind of really keeps her awareness up, and I am going, as I'm learning how to do this, she's going to, when she kind of gets to a spot where she doesn't think people are really going to notice too much, because it's probably late at night and there aren't a whole lot of people out, but she waits until she gets right near the park, where it's probably kind of a quiet, kind of darker spot, and pulls out her guns and checks to make sure that they are properly set and loaded. And then I want to use one of my edges.
Sure. Which one would you like to use?
I'm going to put up discern.
Discern? Okay.
Yep. Which will last, let's see. So that's going to be perception and zeal to see how long this lasts.
All right. Give me a roll. Anything 6 or above.
That is 4 successes.
4 successes. Okay. Excellent.
The effects of discern last for 10 minutes for each success. So that is going to be 40 minutes. That is going to be up.
Awesome. As it'll only take you from where you are about 10 minutes by vehicle, or actually you could really walk it from here if you
She'd probably walk.
All right. And as you begin to walk down towards the park, your eyes in a different state of mind, so to speak. We will move over to our final player of the evening. As we look in on the hospital ER, Riley, you are on shift tonight. It has been a relatively quiet evening. You were here last night because it was Halloween and it was all hands on deck for the most part. Tonight has been kind of the slow trickle of the aftermath, as people who did not want to come in yesterday came in today. But you've managed to get everybody taken care of that has come in so far, and have made time for yourself to take a quick break. What would Riley do on her break?
Chances are good that she gets a cup of coffee. She has some kind of snack that she stores in the fridge, and she is probably just gonna sit and pull out a crossword puzzle and just sit for 10 or 15 minutes, to eat, drink this coffee, work on this, whatever crossword puzzle she's working on at the time.
Okay. One of your coworkers is actually on break with you. Her name is Tracy. You two have known each other. She has worked here for about 2 years, off and on. She has been working for a local medical facility during the day, but she has picked up some hours here and there at night, helping out in the ER, especially around Halloween and some of the big events. She's just kind of sitting there enjoying a cup of coffee, and y'all been doing some quick small talk here and there as you normally do. She said, after you left yesterday or this morning, something weird came in. Did you see the report on that?
No, what are you talking about?
It was a John Doe. They brought him in, and they put him in, in room number 1. He was still alive when they brought him in, but his feet were missing.
His feet were missing?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm surprised that the nurses earlier didn't tell you about this.
what kind of missing? Are we talking like they were cut off, or they just vanished?
No, it was like somebody took one of those cheese slicers. How you can cut the cheese ever so perfectly. That's the way it was.
Was he bleeding out from his feet? Or
No.
what?
No,
So the wounds were cauterized?
that's what it looked like. But if you could use the word perfectly in this case,
Well, that's some psycho behavior.
you think
People's feet don't just go missing.
it was both of them, and it looked like. No, I'm just so glad you left. You didn't want to see that. So,
No. God. Is he dead now?
yeah. I think it was. They think it was the shock that it gave him a heart attack, and they just couldn't bring him back after that. After he coded.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think the MI has gotten to it. They took him downstairs, but I figured I wanted to tell you before you actually read the reports from last night. We get some weird shit here on Halloween. You know that. You know. I thought the kid that, swallowed that whole pumpkin was one thing, but that,
Yeah.
I've seen people missing, parts before in accidents and, even some combat wounds, but nothing like that.
Nothing perfectly, few things perfectly removed. Anytime that we have somebody who comes in here with they were using a table saw and then they were missing fingers, those are pretty perfectly removed.
Yeah, it didn't look like a table saw.
Like the wound was too clean for that?
Yeah. It was, you got to go see that for yourself. It's terrible.
And he's down in the morgue?
Yeah, they haven't picked him up yet.
Maybe I should do that. That's usually that's not normal.
No, it's not.
And you know that not normal is a thing I'm interested in, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. I know you told me you've seen some really spooky stuff, but that's weird.
That's really weird.
Look, we got about 10 minutes left on our break. I'll cover for you if you want to go down to look. I don't think Joe's working down there tonight, so you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tracy. I'll be back in 10-15 minutes.
Yeah. Good luck. As you make your way down to the morgue, that is where we'll close the book on tonight's introductory session here of Hunter the Reckoning. I'm Skip. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll see you next time as our hunters begin to try to figure out what is going on here in Roanoke. Good night, everybody.